from TNT Aerospace describes how he navigates the waters of dealing with government contracts. Today's episode is brought to you by MyGoSite, where you can build funnels and website all from one location. Easy to use, drag and drop builder. Build your first funnel today. Fully customized checkout experience, 14-day free trial, no credit card needed. Welcome back, everybody, to today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. Today we have Aaron Theisen he's the president of TNT Aerospace. They do all kinds of cool stuff for all kinds of stuff in the air and above. How are you doing today, Aaron?
I'm great, Dan.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. Very much appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, and thank you for taking that time out to share your story with us today. It is very much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about what it is that TNT Aerospace does and who your clients are?
TNT Aerospace, we're a CNC machine shop and an assembly place that basically we just make everything that flies. Our product lines include essentially things that connect critical infrastructure inside of an aircraft to the main body of the aircraft. So that's for commercial aerospace. That's what we do. Cut it all out of raw material, aluminum, titanium, brass, you name it. Anything that will take a cutter, and we send it on down the road. Usually AS certified for everything, and we've got tons of credentials. So yeah.
You make the parts that make the stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? So you get to build the materials, or you get a build of some CAD drawings, I'm assuming, right? You bump them into your systems, and then they cut the parts out, and you set them out. Somebody else manufactures them.
Yeah, everything we do is run through Mastercam, which is a computer-aided manufacturing software. Probably one of the more well-known ones, anyway. And we program all the machines through Mastercam and run everything with our absolutely crack staff. We have some amazing people here.
So I'm sure there's people out there thinking, oh, TNT Aerospace, they do these, government contracts and all that stuff. I could never do anything like that. It's this huge, huge business, and I could never get into it. I just like playing with my 3D printer and my, little laser thing and my XYZ axis stuff, right? I like doing those things, but I could never go into a business like that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started? Because it wasn't that long ago that you decided to get into this industry, or at least found TNT Aerospace in reality, in the big scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
But you made that decision, you moved forward, and now you're doing this. Can you tell the audience a little bit about, what possessed you or what motivated you to go into this industry and really say, hey, we're gonna cut parts for planes?
Yeah, well, I mean, to some level, it is possession. It was. We always call it the crazy idea that we, just had was sitting on the couch one fine day. My brother and I were working for a place in Bellingham here, just about 20 minutes south of us, and we knew that they had a machine that was actually for sale. It was older anyway. It was a 1998 Haas at the time, and we started talking about it, and it turned into a 20-minute conversation turned into, well, we could do that. Well, it just turned into, hey, let's start a business. And, the next week we went back to our bosses at the time and said, hey, what kind of deal can you make us on this thing? And the rest is history. We got work from them, and that is basically how we started our entire enterprise.
So you worked for the company that you bought the machine from?
Yeah, and oddly enough, now that very same company with the very same founders and the very same owners now provide us with the ERP system that we run everything through in our shop through. Our enterprise planning is done through their software. So they've been with us for a long time. And that's where we started in 2006. We stuck that 1998 Haas in my dad's shop up in the woods, so to speak. We actually ran it on generators because we couldn't get enough juice off the line.
So is that a 480 volt system or 220?
Yeah, that was 208, but three phase.
Okay.
Basically, if the spindle spooled up, they were saying that we were going to blink the lights all the way down the road, and they were just saying, "Nah, you ain't doing that." So,
yeah. And so just so the audience knows, if you're not familiar with power, the average house has 208 volts going to it, but it's a single phase, just a hot and a ground, and maybe a neutral. So this is 2 hots and a ground to get you to 208, or three hots and a ground, right? To get you to the 3-phase power. It's big boy power, right? It's what you would use. I mean, I run data centers, right? We use that in data centers. We actually use 480 and up, but it's big boy. It's kill you power.
It's kill you in the rest of your town power. Yeah, it's no joke. And that was sort of where we ran into a problem, and we were like, well, what do we do now? And the next thing we thought of was generators. Well, we ran on generators until about 2015. And we, So think about that. So think about how much.
Pick up some gas, honey, because we got to keep working tonight.
So basically, we get all that stuff done. We built our building in 2015, and we're here building aerospace parts since then. So we've grown up a lot.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic story. So a very important tip here. Aaron saw an opportunity at the company that he worked for, and he just had the courage to go and say, hey, or they were selling it, right?
Yeah.
So they were selling a piece of equipment, had the courage to say, hey, if I bought that piece of equipment, would you give me any of your ancillary work? There's a lot of businesses have product sets that they're getting ready to discontinue, but they have some customers, and they have some equipment to support it. If you're at a company and you can see that opportunity, ask. It's okay, right?
And think about that. That's your starting point. That's your starting point. That's your leaping off point for, and you've got to have a sliver of an opportunity. This was a sliver of an opportunity. The opportunity was something is for sale. Great. Right. Go grab that. Well, once that opportunity is accepted, then, you kind of just build from there.
Right. And I used to say this all the time. I don't say it that much anymore because I think I've found my special place in the world. But my job used to be, I look for opportunities and execute on the ones that I think can bring my shareholders the most amount of money, right? And that's an entrepreneur's job or a business person's job in the world. Maybe you're your only shareholder, right? But if you're your only shareholder, you probably have some stakeholders, wives, partners, all kinds of other stuff that depend on you to bring in some paychecks. So look for those opportunities. You're thinking about starting a business and you're currently working for somebody, keep your eyes open for that stuff. Those opportunities are around. And if you're not looking for them, then you will not find them. You'll walk right past them. You'll never even know, right? So great job on seeing that opportunity, executing on it, pulling the trigger. I know it was probably scary, and you've already told us one pretty crazy story about adversity on literally managing fuel in tanks, right? How big of a generator did you get? And I know a little bit about generators, like an 80 kVA?
That's actually, that's one of them that's sitting outside of our current shop now because we haven't sold it yet. But yes, that's literally what we had.
Yeah, so I'm just imagining what size generator you would need. I'm like, an 80 would probably, with a 1,000-gallon tank, would probably run that thing for a couple months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But it was a portable, so we had to kind of manage the fuel thing. But it worked out really well, though. I mean, it got us to where we needed to be, right?
Right. But to run a generator on fuel is probably 5 times more expensive than running it on utility power.
Yeah, roughly. But that's the thing is that when you're left with nothing, you can't get it at all. Like you're kind of left with like what you can get, So you got to kind of come up with other strategies in order to be able to kind of make your numbers in line with everything else. Because you got to deal with a small amount of adversity over here. You've got to kind of make it up for it over here, Right.
One tip, though, on the generators is you don't have to buy fuel from the gas station. You can remove the road tax, right? So you can get your generator fuel from a fuel distributor, not from the gas station. You won't pay any road tax on it, and it is less expensive. So
a little bit different.
I have a couple megs of generators running around in my life, but But anyway, moving forward, do you have a story about adversity other than the fuel that you would like to share with the audience, and a tip or trick that you personally use in business when you think, it's all over, I'm walking away? How do you keep mentally fit to continue on where other people would quit, right? Because 20% of companies close their first year, 50 within their first 5 years. So, where did you find that energy to keep moving in the hard times?
My story of adversity, honestly, the biggest one is the most recent one that we've had we kind of get hit with a double whammy where we had a significant amount of work in the 737 MAX at the tail end of 2019. And unfortunately in 2019, 737 MAX was grounded for, up until just not that long ago. So, in October, we're starting to get phone calls and saying, all of these six-figure contracts that we had, all of a sudden we're putting stop work orders on everything. And, you've bought all the material, you've got, a significant amount of labor involved in all that.
You had a contract.
Yeah. They're there, right? Well, that's kind of the rub with like people like us is that we're kind of small, and when Mr. Big Bank comes along and says, "Well, I think we're going to go ahead and stop that right now. Why don't you just go ahead and sit tight?" You kind of just do it, and so that kind of put the skids on a lot of things at that point. And then February, COVID shows up, and essentially the entire travel industry comes to a halt. Every bit of aerospace work that we had was gone. We had no work. So we had zero sales, and that was
hard to swallow.
That was impossible to swallow, I thought.
Right.
That is the adversity. I don't know what else to say. That I was in a low point. Very low point. I woke up one day and mercifully I'm kind of got a hard nose about me. And I said, and you know what, I'm not letting this, after what we have gone through, take us out. I'm not letting a disease take me out. I'm not letting somebody's stupid decisions take me out. I'm going to throw everything at the wall and then some. And that's what we did. We applied for every loan that we can get our unwashed hands on. We did, PPP. We did, I'll do work for the, personal defense industry that we hadn't really entered before. Some prototype stuff, some different sectors that, I was throwing everything at the wall to see if I can get it to stick. And decided to, just keep on hammering. I couldn't stop.
Just a refusal to give up.
Yeah.
Plain out refusal. I'm going to make this work.
I had to get hard nosed. I had to be someone that I wasn't accustomed to being all the time. And that is someone that is somewhat undeniable. You can't have something that is just the gut punch that was. It was an absolute gut punch. And watch your family just slide into poverty, and all of us, my dad, my brother, all of us are involved in this. We have family that works here. We have people that we've known for years that work here. Their livelihoods are dependent upon us, and I couldn't let that happen. And none of these things were I couldn't let that happen. I just felt such a responsibility.
And none of it was your fault.
No.
But you felt like it was. It's your responsibility. None of it's your fault, but you feel like it's your responsibility to make sure there's food on these tables. Yeah. I lost one company in the pandemic. Right towards the end of the pandemic, I did. Yeah. Me and my wife did shut down one of our businesses because it just wasn't ever going to be viable again. But it is what it is. Or I guess we could have been viable, but we'd had to reinvest like we did in the original. Right. And we just didn't have the energy to do that for that brand that we were with. So, we did other things, and we're happier because of it. But at the end of the day, the pandemic did cause. If we didn't have the pandemic, we would still have that business. I have zero doubt in my mind. So, it's a sea change in the entire in every single industry. So you gotta roll with it. Yep. So, but lucky for me, I'm in the IT business as well, and we didn't miss a day of work through the whole pandemic, right? So. It was a weird world for us. We kept coming every day, and everybody else is like, I need more internet, I need more internet, I need more internet. So it ended up being a reasonable thing for my primary gig. But you're right. It was hard for a lot of people, and learning how to do the PPP loans and the SBA EIDLs. I was a bad student in school, but I feel like I got an MBA through that process, man. It was more homework than I'd ever done in my life, and it was constantly going back to the till and getting every piece of, we talk about knowing your numbers a lot on Clicks and Bricks. If you're going to apply for a PPP loan or an EIDL loan, you damn well know your numbers, right?
Yeah.
Across the board, and every number, every nook and cranny, and have an explanation for it.
Well, yeah, it's so consequential. I mean, it could be disastrous. The thing that you thought was going to save you could actually wind up putting you out of business if you don't read everything. This is another situation that, read everything before you sign it. I tell my own children that, my 11-year-old daughter still does that now. So it's it's one of those things you do.
Right. So adversity in business is you're never going to get rid of adversity in business. You're going to have it, especially if you're running the business, if you're the founder or a president or any of those things. You're going to have hurdles. You're going to have big hurdles, and you're going to have little silly HR hurdles, right? You're going to have silly stuff with personalities and things like that. You just have to learn to love figuring those challenges out.
Yeah.
Right? And
I'll take those challenges. Any day of the week, I'll take that all day. No big deal.
That's why we do what we do, right? We feel great when we overcome a challenge, right? Some challenges are way bigger than others, but it's a great time. So, but the mindset of overcoming hurdles is a different mindset than growth or thriving in the marketplace. And when you go from survival mode to growth mode, you have to do some real soul searching. You have to do some real homework about yourself and who you are and where you want to go. Because if you don't do those things, if you can't picture where you're going to go or where your business is going to be, it's going to stay right where it's at. If that's what you want, if your business is where it's at and that makes you happy, stay there. But if you want to grow, you have to make some changes to yourself, to your staff, to your company, maybe your products, all kinds of stuff. You have to really look into that. How do you take and move that mindset from a survival mode to a thriving mode?
So survival mode was basically myself setting up a bunch of dominoes. I set up tons of dominoes. And that was sort of like how I couched it in my own head. I wound up setting all these dominoes up, and I had a plan for each individual domino and how I was going to get it to fall. I mean, that's essentially it. And then, and so I executed the plan. And that plan involved us getting credentials. It involved us being audited. It involved, other people, things of that nature. And I was down to, days, like I have to hit this day for this milestone. Otherwise we're going out of business. Right. And I figured that out down to the day. And I just set up milestones, and then I hit the milestones. I don't know how I did it. I did. It was just persistence. I don't know what else to call it.
Right.
But I hit every single one of those milestones, and we lived. So now we're here, and now since I'd done all that work up front to get all those milestones and get all of those things set up so that we can move on. Now it's just a question of like servicing those things that we had set up. It was awesome. Oftentimes just a question of just asking someone to help, to help out in some cases, or just making sure that like we followed up with this, or that I just realized that sometimes it's. You're familiar with the concept of death by 1,000 cuts. Well, this is success by 1,000 cuts. Basically, it's every little tiny thing that you do and start stacking them into a big, giant, skyscraper at the end of the day.
I heard an analogy just last night. I heard this one. She said, if I've got a swimming pool that's nice and blue, and I take a beaker of red dye and I drop one dot in it, it's not going to do much. But if I do that over and over and over and over and over, I have a red pool, right? Exactly. So that's exactly what you're talking about, filling that up and making that change. And it's challenging. It's hard. I believe, and I like what you said there. You set these milestones up and then you hit them. And sometimes they were down to the day, right? And the mindset of a business person or an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call what we do, I don't necessarily like the word entrepreneur as much as I like business owner. But when you're doing what we do, if you wake up in the morning and you have the mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. I can't believe we're in this position. How am I going to get the money? You're going to be stuck there, right? But if you wake up every morning like, okay, I got to hit this today, for some reason, it always comes.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. There's, and these problems, these solutions keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. When I first started, it was like these, $1,000 issues, right? And it was like, oh, how am I going to get this $1,000? And it was like this big thing. But I could just go to my mom or dad and get $1,000, right? And then it got to the point of like, okay, now I've got $10,000 decisions that I'm dealing with on a regular basis. Okay. And that's scary at first, and then you get used to it. And now my problems are, $100,000 problems and $500,000 problems. I'm starting to get comfortable with those, but it's that persistence every day and continuing to grow that gets you where you need to be, right?
Exactly.
And it's, to me, it's all about mindset, right? If you have a bad mindset and you think your company's going to fail, you're already failed.
Yeah.
You're already done. Just go home.
Yeah, I totally
Go to Monster,
yes.
Monster.com and start looking for a job. This is not the place for you to be, right? So
no, you're not wrong, and that was the way I felt. Every day you go home and you realize that you're just staring at your demise just coming toward you like slowly. It's coming,
right.
And if you just sit there and watch it come, that's exactly what's going to happen to you.
Right.
That's it. It's one of those things you just have to get hard-nosed about things and just kind of just snotty and like, I'm not saying no. This is not going to work for me. You just have to get hard-nosed about it.
I've had staff upset with me because they didn't understand why I was doing the things that I was doing when we were in hard times. Yeah. And I'd literally say, I want to know every bill we're going to pay for the rest of the year. And I would look at my checkbook for hours on end. Right? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to figure this out. I don't figure out how to do this. Like, I don't see the answer yet. But after a while, we were able to move stuff around and keep doing stuff and negotiate. And we finally got to a point to where it was a good place to live, right? And on a financially good place. As a business owner, you have to hide that from most of your staff. Yeah. You have to put on a bold face every day and come in and the wife. Well, you shouldn't hide it from your wife.
Well,
I'm not a marriage counselor by far, so.
Well, I didn't want her. I wanted her to think. That was the thing is that I have to project some level of confidence to the people around me, right? I mean, who wants to follow somebody that doesn't have any confidence?
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
That's not a leader, right? If you don't have confidence or some small amount of narcissism about yourself, right? You're not really a leader. Let's face it. We all got that. And
I think my staff would say I have that a little bit.
Well, see, there you go.
Argue with them. They're saying, they're out there like this.
I'm sure, right? That's how it always works. But that's kind of what puts us in our place, though. That's how.
Well, I think we have that narcissism, but we're also humble people because we've been through what we've been through, right? And we understand that. And now I want to help as many people that have been in that boat as I possibly can because there is light at the end of the tunnel. And when you get there, it's wildly gratifying. It is so gratifying when you finally get to the point like, oh shit, I'm busy today. I don't necessarily have to go to the post office and pick up the mail to see, how much checks are in the mail today, right? I can miss a day, right? Well, 8 years ago, I couldn't miss a day, right? I couldn't miss a minute. So, and now we're to the point where, my accounts payable guy is sick. It's like, okay, we don't need to, hustle up and have that done today. So it's a great feeling when you get there. I just see a lot of people get there and stop, right? And I really don't like that either. But I have to say, if that's where you're at and that makes you happy, then do it. But I would argue that if you're stopping and you think you're comfortable in your current business, that your business is already over. You just don't realize it yet. You might got another, because 70% of businesses close in the first 10 years, right? So, that tells me they get to a spot, they get bored with what they're doing, or they want to do something else. But it's, 10-year life expectancy sad. I talked to a guy the other day. This company's been open for 93 years, right? His great-grandfather started it. And it's like, 5% of companies make it to the 4th generation. And that's a huge thing, right? That's, at the end of the day, really what we want, right? Like, nobody's doing that. I hope nobody's doing this today and say, hey, I want to have a job for the next 20 years and then just let it burn to the ground.
No, probably not, right? I mean, we want to have a positive legacy and leave something behind. That's your indelible mark on the planet right there. Is look, there's the business that lived through everything and they set it up that way. You just try to do that. If I can pass it on to the next generation, that would be I've done my job, you know.
So TNT Aerospace has government contracts, Department of Defense contracts, and things like that. If somebody wanted to, say they have a business right now that does this kind of thing, or they're looking to start a business, do you have any advice for the guy that says, hey, I think I want to start doing government contracts? And we had a little bit of conversation for this. I'm not a government contract guy at all. I'm not even a Fortune 500 guy, really, right? I'm a medium-sized business player. That's where I like to be. But if somebody did want to go into that and really bite that off, what would your advice be? Just try to say, let's get that first government contract. How would you advise them on their first steps?
I think that, and I think that it goes. It's the same statement that I say for everything in business: is that your level of persistence will dictate your success. A lot of people kind of like start up with the government contracting thing, and I did this myself. Right out of the gate, I thought it would be great to, as a small business, get involved in government contracting and things of that nature. And I honestly, again, you don't know what you don't know, and you get started, and you realize there's a lot of work that goes on with this, and there's a lot of upfront stuff. And you've got to jump through all these hoops. You've got to get all these things done. And there are people out there to help you, but you have to make the time to be able to do all of those things and make it a priority. Unless you make it a priority, and unless you are persistent and consistent with your engagement with that priority and that activity, you're not going to really get anywhere. That's what I've kind of noticed with government contracting, just in general, is just being persistent and just going through the hoops, doing what you need to do. Just get the job done type of thing. I understand why people don't want to do the tedious, fill this out, fill that out. I can't get into my account for this, that, or the other thing, or I've got to talk to this guy. I get it. If you're doing work already, it's very difficult to go back and work through all the government contracting details. It's totally separate issue. If you put the time in, you will be rewarded at the end.
So the margins are huge, right? Yes. And the money, we live in a time where the money did stop, but historically, once you got a government contract, you had that contract for a very, very long time. The money's very consistent, right?
Yes.
My experience in the Fortune 500 world is a net 90 experience, right? So you get your payment about 90 days after they get their invoice. And I think that's the same or worse in the government deals, right?
Yeah.
But once they start, they're in lockstep every single month, right? So you have to have enough capital to get you through those first 3 or 4 months of the job.
Yeah.
But then it starts, and then you're good to go. Can you get a loan against that contract pretty easily from the bank, like a short-term gap loan?
Yeah. You can actually do that very easily anymore. There's ways that we deal with it that we don't have to go quite that far, but it is an option out there, and the federal government has been kind of getting a little bit better as far as the payment schedule is concerned. Net 90 is very difficult for people that are in the second and third tier supply chain. Because there's people like us, right? We're semi-small, and if you're
today, not 90 days from now.
Yeah, exactly. I've got $50,000 worth of payroll to pay in 2 days or whatever it is, stuff like that. Yeah. But they're a lot better now as far as they seem to be getting a lot more friendly as far as for small business. I noticed that the SBA is kind of becoming a lot more involved in those sorts of things. So, they're becoming more friendly as far as, net 30, for example. That's, you can actually get that from the government anymore. I think that there's a recognition on some level that that those of us out there that are on this end of the supply chain do experience some level of issues that other people, that are monolithic and giant, they never experience those issues. They've got a bank, backing them, or they've got their own bank, for example. I don't have that.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. So my advice, if you wanted to get into government contracts, my first advice would be take a 5-hour investment and just start reading the minimum requirements for doing government contract work and say, hey, is this even something I want to taste?
Yes.
If you love methodical work, go for it. If you don't, but you still want to do it, hire someone to do that methodical work for you, right?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So, because I can't do it, I'm never going to do it. It's not my wheelhouse, but we need guys like you that are willing to do that. Cross those T's and dot those I's, and get that work done. And I mean, that's doing all kinds of really cool stuff for the world, right? I mean,
yeah.
You're on the 737s. You probably got some really cool projects that you worked on.
I actually can't tell you about a couple of them. Yes.
Yeah. So, but also you said during the pandemic, you kind of started changing gears a little bit and looking for other verticals that you could support services. Are those other verticals now still in play?
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
Certain, that's the thing is that sometimes you get into things and you realize that we may not be talking the same language here. There's going to be a level of recognition that you're going to have at some point to realize that you're not going to be able to make the margin or what you think out of, you're not going to get the advantage you think that there is.
Right.
And sometimes you just need to understand that and
right.
you move forward after that. You threw it at the wall, didn't stick, great. Leave that there. Yeah. Catch you later.
I find that in times of survival mode, a lot of times, and I've done it too, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I do it. I did it for sure. Is throwing a whole bunch of stuff at the wall, right? And do it as cheap as fast as possible to see if something can stick. And if it sticks, then keep investing into it, right? But it's okay to try something and then go, oh, that didn't work, and then stop doing it.
Right.
That is okay to do as long as you're open and honest with everybody and you honor. I do like to honor my contracts, right? But you said something earlier that I think it's important for people to know. The smaller the company is versus a bigger company, if you go to court, you'll probably win against the contract.
Yeah.
If you take it all the way through court, you'll probably win because the judge is going to like the small guy over the big guy. But the big guy will destroy you in court.
Correct.
You'll never probably see the judge. You'll be in depositions for years, right? It's just a horrible experience. If you have a contract that somebody says, hey, I'm not going to pay you for this.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think long and hard before you want to start taking the legal system approach of going after that money.
Yeah.
Because it is miserable, right?
Well,
on both sides of the fence.
Just how much money do you want to spend on this? Am I
Right. My experience to collect $1 million back from somebody that stole it from you, right? Is going to cost you $750,000 in legal fees.
Yeah.
And a couple years of your life, right? So it's just generally not worth going after those. You say, I have these contracts, banks will give you loans on those contracts, but at the end of the day, when stuff like pandemics hit, you can't count on those contracts, or you cannot count on that contracted money. So it's really important for small business to understand that, under normal circumstances, you can pretty much count on that money coming in, but in extraordinary circumstances, everything's fair game. It's just, and it's bad, right? It's not good. And then today, I don't even know, I got a speeding ticket a year and a half ago that's still not in court, right? So, today's legal system is just, I think it's got to be thrown out at some point, right? I'm like, hey.
Can you just do this?
Yeah, so it's crazy stuff, but I think you did a great job going into this, taking the risk, all that stuff. It's great work. Thank you so much for doing everything that you do. Now, rub that crystal ball really hard and tell us where you think, so 3D printing helped the CNC market dramatically, really drop those costs of the manufacturing and all that stuff. And I'm not really versed in that, but can you kind of tell us where you think this industry is going, and maybe not the aerospace industry because it's really niche to you, but where the part making, because you make parts, really.
Right.
That's what we do. You make them for spaceships. Right. But at the end of the day, where's the maker industry going 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Yeah, the 3D printing industry has been growing, and I'm glad that you brought that up. It's been growing by leaps and bounds. It was something that I thought that I was never going to be able to utilize in like aircraft or anything that was really consequential, because it always seemed like it was such a Fisher Price type of thing. It's like, oh, you can make your cute little part. It's never going to pass inspection, though. That type of thing. But now, of course, we've moved on to where we're at today with 3D printing and printing in metals and things of that nature. And I've actually investigated a lot of this for our company here, because this is, I mean, I would be foolish to not be paying attention to that. And that's where we're talking about heading at this point.
So has that gotten to the point to where a 3D printer can actually make a finished product, or is it still just fast prototyping?
Yeah, no, you can actually make like finished products, depending upon your application, and your tolerances and things of that nature. Yeah, you can print out a complete part that will be sufficient for whatever application that you have. When you start getting into like high tolerance type things, like super ridiculously tight tolerances,
right?
Those sorts of things still have to be taken care of by people like us for the most part.
Right.
And that's sort of like where I think that's what I find interesting at this point is that it is kind of the marrying of the two technologies together to make like something that's greater than the sum of its parts, or that's greater than its individual pieces.
Right.
It's if you can bring your CNC to bear with your 3D printing technology and metallics and things of that nature, you're the sky's the limit. And when they figure out how to keep the porosity and the kind of forming the material down to where the material can pass ultrasonic inspection and penetrant inspection, so that there's no porosity and stuff. That's going to be a huge leap as well. And you're going to be able to make structural pieces a lot faster, like what you can't do right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're 3D printing concrete. They're 3D printing all kinds of stuff today. So, yeah, the sky's really the limit. I know carbon fiber 3D printing is a thing.
Yes.
Right. So, and that's, really lightweight, really strong stuff.
Materials. Yes. Like, that's the thing. Carbon fiber, like, we haven't even realized all of the things that carbon fiber can take care of for us, and that's, it's amazing stuff. People don't quite, I don't think that people give it enough credit for like the sea change that it really created in a lot of manufacturing products.
Right. So actually, I just had a thought come to mind, and I'm going to throw you right under the bus here. I've been reading lately that the FCC's approved residential cars for flight. Or not the FCC, the flying people, the FAA, yeah.
Right.
Like they're starting to approve flying residential vehicles.
Yeah, right.
Do you think that'll be a big impact on you long term?
I think that's probably, I think that there's going to be like it sort of seems like it's going to be like a hybrid version of what the automotive industry is now. Things again inherently that are flying are going to require a lot of, substantiation. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to have that you probably will have over and above what your standard automotive manufacturing concept will have. So that's going to be that is going to be huge. But again, that's another situation where it's kind of predicated upon how they change the fuel and how they are going to power any of these particular platforms. We do work for a company that actually is creating an electric aircraft, and there's actually
the batteries are heavy.
Yeah.
That seems counterproductive to me.
Well, you would think, but that's the thing is that the whole challenge is making it lighter and making it work for the platform, and that's sort of where they're at right now. Right. We have companies here in Washington that they're like seaplanes, tourist seaplanes, and they have them powered by electric motors. So. I mean, just from the perspective of like, it's from a marketing standpoint, seaplanes, we're all green and all that. It's great. It's perfect for them. Moving forward, you've got, regional carriers that could potentially.
So do they carry the batteries in the pontoons?
Yeah.
You're not a seaplane expert.
I don't know how they did it. But this is something. This is a piece of technology that they're working through right now, and this is a thing. DHL has actually bought 20 of their aircraft already. So,
really?
Yes.
All right.
It's not a concept.
Yeah, and so I might get to live today to see a day of the Jetsons, where we're flying around in cars and stuff like that.
I can almost guarantee you that you will.
Right. I think they're saying it's like five years out before we start seeing them regularly in the world. So.
Yeah. They're not wrong.
pretty exciting stuff, right? I'm gonna get to fly.
It's crazy. A lot of people don't understand that either, and
Yes.
we're not that far away from the Jetsons.
No, we're not. It's coming so fast, right? Like this is breakneck speed at some of the technology that we're doing. That it's here. Well, it appears to be breakneck to the consumer.
Yes.
They've been working on it for 100 years, right? So this is the 100-year overnight success problem that we always have.
Yes.
So fantastic. Before we go, if somebody wanted to get some parts milled or just talk to you about anything, do you have any way to contact? How would somebody get in contact with you or look at your website or something like that?
Yeah, our website is TNTAerospace.com, and my name is Aaron. I'm the salesperson / president, and my email address is Aaron, AARON, @TNTAerospace.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Aaron.